gentlemen, we got Conquest 10 here, and okay, we got some stuff to talk about here. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I do see some good things in this update. I see some bad things, and I see more ugly things. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of issues here. Now, the silver lining is some of these things I do think they will address and are probably just for this first Conquest. But other things, it's just, it's just feels like it's one step forward, a couple steps back sometimes with game modes like this. But we're going to start with the good, then we'll go to the bad, then we'll go to the ugly. So we're start positive, and then the video is just going to progressively get more frustrating. So bear with me here, and we'll start things on a good note, though, shall we? So there are some new data discs that I've noticed, and it does appear to me like, at least from my anecdotal evidence so far, that we've actually added some fun data discs to this game. This Perseverance one, I've been having a lot of fun with. I ran into this one almost right away. Allied units call themselves to assist whenever they use an ability during their turn, but all damage they deal is reduced by 30%. Limit once per turn. A lot more attacking. Stuff like that has been fun. I expect to see more. But this is, since deployable cooling systems, this is one where I actually, for the first time, I thought, oh, that's fun. And I mean, unfortunately, it's overshadowed by a lot of frustrating components of this Conquest that we'll talk about, but I would be remiss if I didn't give credit where credit is due. We asked for better, more creative data discs, and I think that it seems like we've received a few of those. Now, the sector feats, I think, are a step in the right direction. Let me be clear, the sector feats. We'll talk about the events here, not in the good section. But I actually think that they have done a good job of downplaying the importance of the sector feats, and there's only 4 of them. And also something else to call out, because there are so many, there's more battles here along this path, it is a little bit easier to hit those feats without having to go back and kind of retrace your steps. So far, I feel like that is a good thing in the sector feats that I have seen so far. Maybe not all of them. I mean, there is still some of that grindiness in there. Like, for example, defeat 50 enemies with clone troopers. I wish that we had more creative feats in that. 14 battles with no supports, but at least there's more battles, so it's kind of easier to get it just along your way. It's maybe in between good and bad, honestly. I'm trying to find the positive here, ladies and gentlemen. Also, I actually really like the Conquest Pass. I know some people might take issue with this. Hear me out. This is why I like it. You don't have to get it, okay? That's why I like it. It's optional. It's bonus. If you want to upgrade, I just bought the $10 pass because I felt like there was value in those rewards. You don't have to get those, right? You're not losing out on a ton. You can still unlock Boba Fett without getting it. And obviously you lose out on only 2 Omicron abilities. Ability match is all you're losing out on. That's probably the biggest thing that I would say you're losing out on, but it's, only 2 of those. And then, the other pass is just, all right, so we got a data disc in there, some consumables and some gear and some quality of life stuff. And so nice to have. These passes are nice to have. If you can afford them, you want to get it, great. But I see no reason why you shouldn't be able to still beat Conquest and get Red Crate without it. And so they've created value without kicking you in the nuts. And that's kind of where I want those passes to be. You can get better rewards if you want them. If you don't like passes, great. Don't get it. You could still get the max crate and be on your way. All right, we'll move on to the bad, and then we'll get into the ugly. Now, the first thing is there's some clunky UI stuff with this. I mean, just look, I'm going to point out right here. This just kind of makes it feel unfinished to me. Like, you see that kind of sliding behind. I don't know about you guys, if you could kind of notice that. Some of the UI on this is just feeling a little bit clunky. These lower nodes are kind of showing up underneath things. It just feels like they need to kind of tighten things up and freshen it up a bit. And also, I don't have a screenshot of this right now because it's not showing me all the data disk selection. But it looks like data discs are still pure RNG, and I really wish that they do something about that, because I've already ran into several nodes where I see 2 or even 3 of the same data disk, and I mean, come on, we've got to address that and have at least it set where we're not going to see the exact same disk in the same section. So that's the bad. All right, we are only 5 minutes into the video, and we're probably going to spend another 10 minutes talking about the ugliness of this. And number one for me, guys, there's a lot here. There's 4 big things to talk about. Is the hard path. This is a massive dropped ball, in my opinion. I don't mind the idea of the hard path. Kind of the idea behind it is that this is the hard path right here, and it gives me, you can kind of see it coming up here on my next one. It's going to give me 2 options for data disks, right? And this is where I got the Perseverance data disk. It looks like this is kind of the route to get the better data disks, or at least have a better chance at getting good data disks. So it seems good, but the problem is there is absolutely 0 indicator in the game on what that hard path is. If you were going in here and just kind of dinking around, didn't really have, weren't paying close attention to the forums, you would have no idea what that hard path is. And as soon as you wander off of it, it's gone. And that is just a massive problem. Like, there has got to be some very clear indicator in the game that, number one, this is what the hard path is, and number 2, warn you, hey, if you step off of this, it's gone. You're not going to have a chance at those data disks. You're not going to have a chance at getting back on the path. And they told us that in the forum posts, right? So we know that, but it is not obvious at all in the game. And so I want everyone to be called out on that. Just, I mean, if you're already off the path, like, oh my gosh, that sucks. And I think that's something they really need to work on. I had to find this screenshot on Reddit. It is on Reddit. If you go to the top post, also my guild leader sent it to me, but you can actually see these paths highlighted. Like, I don't understand why they are not highlighting it in the game like this, because this is great. And that's how I assumed it would be. And unfortunately too, it's up and down, up and down. And so if you accidentally go up, you're done, and you're just going to be off of that. And so just a PSA on that. If you guys aren't already aware, it might already be too late. And I think that's something that, I mean, that if we're going to do this hard path, that has to be fixed. I mean, that, to me, that's not even an option. That's not up for debate. Like, that must be fixed. That's a massive problem. I should not have to be carefully reading the forums and finding screenshots on Reddit to know how to handle my Conquest. All right. I think I've ranted enough about that. Now, we also got to talk about the event feeds. So they took a step forward with the sector feats, I think, and it feels like a step back with the event feats here. 40 battles with bounty hunters, 40 battles with smugglers. Oh my gosh, and you have to win with them. 20 battles with Boba Fett and Fennec, 20 battles with Boba Fett and Han Solo. And what sucks is, like, with Boba and Fennec, at least, maybe that one we could go, all right, that's going to be part of your bounty hunter feat. But Boba and Han Solo, that's not going to be contributing to, the smuggler feat at all, because Boba Fett isn't a smuggler, which maybe he should be, by the way. Oh my gosh, they really dialed up the grind. Now, fortunately, you can double dip on some of these. That's going to be the silver lining on these event feats. If I'm going to do a full bounty hunter squad with Boba and Han, or it's actually, no, it wouldn't be full bounty hunters in that case. Yeah, because Han Solo's not a bounty hunter. So you could double dip on these two. You could do 20 battles with Boba Fett, Fennec, and Han, and kind of attack those at the same time. But then you're going to have to do another, 40 battles with a full squad of bounty hunters. So you're looking at least 80 battles there. And that's to say nothing of the smuggler feat as well. And so the number one thing, I mean, I know CG called out in the road ahead that they saw the feedback on the grindiness of the game mode. And I like that it seems like they have addressed that in some areas, but this is like literally not addressing that. And so I think this is pretty clearly a step back, in my opinion. I don't like those event feats at all. And those are, you can't miss out on very many of these and still get the max red crate. And so that is not ideal. Now, I want to call your attention here to a feat right here. I was pretty surprised as I was doing my clone trooper feat here that the kills were not as high as I thought they should be. And the reason for that is because ARC Trooper's blaster turret doesn't count. So we're going to have the ARC... We're basically going to tell you can't use ARC Trooper if you want to get this feat. You could go use a whole team of clones, but no ARC Trooper. So you got to use full clones with no ARC Trooper, no gas, no shock. So Cody and, it's just like... Why would the ARC turret not count? That to me is just like an unnecessary kick in the nuts on an already grindy feat. Capital Games, I don't get it. And it says pretty clearly here that it's working as intended. It's not a clone trooper. You're asking us for 50 kills, my friends. And so what this is forcing a lot of people to do is doing the normal cheese we got used to for last Conquest, where, all right, so now we're just taking Jedi Master Luke in and calling a clone trooper to assist to get those kills. This could have been a less miserable feat if we could have just used a full team of clones. But now you're telling us we can't use ARC Trooper because that turret assists as much as it does. Using ARC Trooper is a massive deterrent in this feat. I think this explanation, I see what you're saying. I see that you say this is working as intended, but I'm also here to say that it is kind of stupid. And really kind of undermines I think what could make that feat meaningful. Maybe not meaningful, however you want to say that. So anyway, it is what it is. And then the last one. This is one of the bigger ones. I'm probably not. I think maybe the event feats or the hard mode is probably the biggest deal. But this screenshot was shared around. There are situations now where you're gonna have to choose between getting your Boba Fett shards and taking data discs. And this is a step back. This is to me, this is a step back from where we've been. That's actually something that I really liked, is that the game mode would force you to the Wandering Scavengers where you got the character shards, so you couldn't accidentally miss out on those character shards. That, to me, is a good design. If we're going to have, you max out the red crate, that you are not going to miss out on those shards by accidentally going for a data disc or have to choose between, oh, wow, this is an amazing data disc. I want that, but I also want to unlock Boba, so those data discs are irrelevant to me. It's just bad design. I think that needs to go back to the way it was before, because right now players are running into positions where they have to choose. Are they going to, go for the character shards, or are they going to go for data discs? And, if you weren't giving us that choice before, why do it now? Is kind of my question. Why would that was a player-friendly thing you had in the design for Conquest. I don't get why it's reverting. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, there are some good things to glean from this Conquest. I am more motivated. I will say this. Overall, I'm more motivated to play this Conquest than I was the last ones. It feels so far like less of a slog than the last ones, but it doesn't feel like a lot less of a slog. I think that it still feels like Grind Quest. I think they still need to move in a less grindy direction, especially on these event feats. I think that some of these changes with like the hard path, they've got to make that so clear in the game, especially because it's not the kind of thing that you can just jump back on. Like, once you hit the wrong node, it's gone. And there's got to be a high percentage of people that accidentally did that just because the game didn't tell them where the hard path was. And you really should not have to be on the forums to figure that kind of thing out. And so there's some big issues here. I'm hoping for more response from CG, especially on stuff like the hard path and choosing between Boba shards and data discs. I really don't like that. But again, some positive things here. I don't hate the pass. I like that it is not essential to max out the crate. It's very clearly optional, and I think that's kind of where I want it to land. So anyway, how do you guys feel about this? It feels like a couple steps forward, maybe a step or two backwards. For me, that's just my take, though. I'd love to hear where you guys are at. Be sure to give the feedback. Obviously I'm sending this over to CG myself. I'm hoping to see some of these things change. Fortunately, Conquest is not a stagnant game mode. It's probably going to sit like this for 3 Conquests before we see any big changes. Although I think they need to hotfix this hard path. This is a change that I don't think we should wait for 3 Conquests. I think that's something they got to get in there. They got to change that ASAP because I just think that's a huge deal. But anyway, fortunately, you know, wait a couple Conquests. We could see more changes in a positive direction. But I think by and large, I don't think very many people are going to be very satisfied with the way this has landed, which really makes me sad because I think Conquest had so much potential and should be a lot more engaging, exciting of a game mode. So anyway, Cubs fam, fill up the comments below. Let me know how you guys are feeling about this. Like the video if you did enjoy it. And as always, my brothers, don't forget,